Prologue. After gloriously retiring from the soul-crushing corporate grind, I became the sole heir to a billion-dollar dynasty. I was planning to just kick back and enjoy life. Who knew that right out of the gate, my Ice Queen CEO fiancée would show up at my door with her true love, demanding I break off the engagement. Looking at the two of them, I almost laughed out loud. You mean I get to be this lucky? Chapter 1. I opened my eyes. Blinding sunlight streamed through the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, spilling across a rug that probably cost more than my last car. The air was filled with the faint, calming scent of sandalwood. I wiggled my fingers. The mattress beneath me was big enough for 5 people and so soft it felt like sinking into a cloud. I, Leo Carter, had been reborn. 1 second, I was just another corporate drone in a cubicle, pulling my 7th all-nighter for a quarterly bonus that wouldn't even cover my rent, right before everything went black. The next, I was here in the body of a guy with the same name, heir to a billion-dollar fortune, but notorious, good-for-nothing playboy who was the laughingstock of the entire elite social circle. Memories flooded my brain, telling me this was the world of a pulp novel I'd once read. And I wasn't even a proper supporting character. I was just a throwaway plot device, a stepping stone for the original protagonist, a guy who existed solely to hand over his fiancée and his pride before being unceremoniously crushed in Chapter 3, his family's empire absorbed by the hero. I took a full minute to process all this. Then I couldn't help it. I started cackling like a madman into the plush pillows. A plot device. A stepping stone. To hell with the plot. I'm officially retired. With billions in the bank, what couldn't I eat? What couldn't I do? And I'm supposed to fight the protagonist? Am I insane? From this day forward, I have only one goal. Enjoy life and experience everything I missed out on the first time around. Workouts, fine dining, world travel. The good life is calling, and I'm ready to answer. I threw off the silk sheets, my bare feet sinking into the deep pile carpet. I walked to the window and yanked open the curtains. Outside, a perfectly manicured lawn stretched towards a glittering, man-made lake. Now, this is living, I said, stretching languidly. Every cell in my body felt like it was cheering. 8-pack abs, a sharp V-line. This body had a great foundation. The original Leo had just let it go to waste. No problem. It's under new management now. I was about to head to the walk-in closet to find some workout clothes for a celebratory morning run when the doorbell chimed. The respectful voice of Arthur, the butler, came from outside my door. Mr. Leo, a Miss Sterling, and a gentleman by the name of Mr. Reed are here. They say it is an urgent matter. I paused. Miss Sterling, Isabella Sterling, Mr. Reed, Kevin Reed. Is the plot starting already? The book's events flashed through my mind. The Ice Queen CEO fiancée, Isabella Sterling, disgusted by the original Leo's hedonistic lifestyle, meets the incredibly capable, stoic, and determined protagonist, Kevin Reed. Sparks fly instantly. Today was the big scene where they arrived together to proudly announce their intention to break our engagement, right to my face. In the book, the original Leo felt utterly humiliated, threw a massive tantrum, and made a string of idiotic threats, setting the stage for his own swift demise. Thinking about it made the grin on my face widen. Interrupting my retirement, that's a capital offense. But calling off the engagement, that's the best news I've ever heard. I grabbed a silk robe from the closet, not even bothering to tie it, my chest exposed. Shuffling into a pair of slippers, I headed downstairs. Let them in, I told Arthur. Chapter 2. The atmosphere in the grand living room was so cold you could see your breath. A woman stood in the center of the room, dressed in a pristine, custom-tailored white pantsuit. Her long hair was pulled back in an immaculate bun. Her face was exquisitely beautiful, but her eyes were as cold as a Siberian winter. This was my fiancée, the formidable CEO of Sterling Industries, Isabella Sterling. Beside her stood a man. He was wearing a cheap, no-name suit, but it was clean and pressed. He stood ramrod straight, his gaze sharp, carrying an air of pride that didn't match his station. This was the novel's hero, Kevin Reed. Standing together, they really did have that star-crossed lovers defying the world vibe. I ambled down the sweeping staircase, and both their heads snapped towards me. Isabella's eyes were filled with undisguised disgust and contempt. Kevin's held a hint of assessment and a barely perceptible flicker of superiority, as if he were looking at a loser he'd already left in the dust. I yawned, plopped down lazily on the sofa opposite them, and crossed my legs. The robe slid open, revealing a well-defined calf. "So what's up?" I asked, my voice still rough with sleep. Isabella's brow furrowed, clearly annoyed by my casual attitude. "Leo, I came here today to officially inform you." Her voice was as devoid of warmth as her expression, "that our engagement is over." Kevin took a half-step forward, subtly shielding Isabella, looking at me as if declaring his ownership. "Leo, she's not happy. You're not right for her. If you have any dignity, you'll let her go gracefully." I watched their little performance and had to fight the urge to applaud. Hurry! If the original Leo were here, he'd probably be screaming his head off right now. But I'm not him. I was ecstatic. This meant I was finally completely free from the stupid plot. Forcing down my glee, I put on a look of hazy confusion, as if I had just woken up. "Oh, the engagement," I said slowly. "Sure, whatever." 2 words, delivered without an ounce of concern. The air in the room froze solid. Isabella's prepared speeches about "we're not compatible" and "you can't force love" were stuck in her throat. Kevin's face, which had been set in a look of "I'll compensate you, so don't make a scene," went rigid. They had expected me to rage, to beg, to act like a lunatic and curse them out. They had never, ever imagined I would agree so easily. Looking at their dumbfounded expressions was pure bliss. Is this the joy of having all the information? Just sitting back and watching you two perform like clowns when I already know the script. "Is that all?" I asked, affecting a tone of impatience. "You're done? Can you leave now?" I pointed toward the door. "Arthur, see our guests out. They're holding up my breakfast." Isabella's expression finally cracked, shifting from icy cold to stunned disbelief, and then to a flash of anger at being so casually dismissed. "Leo, what is this attitude?" "What attitude?" I laughed. "You came to call off the engagement." I agreed. "What more do you want? For me to grab your ankles and cry, begging you not to leave?" I stood up and walked over to them, looking down at Kevin. "Kid, you got good taste. This one's a bit cold, but she's gorgeous, great body, definitely a trophy. Since you like her so much, she's all yours. No need to thank me." Kevin's face instantly turned beet red. My words had just cheapened his grand, romantic gesture into nothing more than picking up someone else's leftovers. "You!" He seethed, his fist clenching. Isabella's face was even darker. She had likely never been described with a phrase like "she's all yours" in her entire life. "Leo, don't you regret this?" she ground out through clenched teeth. "Regret it?" I said, as if I'd just heard the world's funniest joke. "I should be thanking you. Now hurry up and get the paperwork done, deal with the engagement rings, and all that junk. Oh, and don't worry about returning the dowry my family sent over. Consider it my wedding gift to you both." Without another glance at them, I turned and headed for the dining room. "Arthur, notify the board. Tell them I'm in a good mood today. Every employee in the Carter Corporation gets a double bonus this month. And book me the best private room at Aurelia. I'm celebrating my return to single life." Behind me, the stunned silence from Isabella and Kevin was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I could feel their entire worldview shuddering on its axis. I didn't even bother to look back. A new, free, and incredibly lazy future was waving at me. A celebration was definitely in order. Chapter 3: Aurelia, the city's most exclusive private kitchen. The head chef was rumored to be descended from imperial cooks, and they only served 3 tables a night. The wait list was booked solid into next year. But for the Carter family, that wasn't a problem. Arthur made one phone call, and Aurelia's owner immediately and respectfully reserved the best suite, the celestial room, just for me. Such is the dull life of the ultra-rich. I changed into some comfortable designer casual wear, took the most inconspicuous Aston Martin from the garage, and cruised over to the restaurant. The private room was a masterpiece of quiet luxury. I was alone, but I ordered a feast. A 7-course tasting menu featuring seared scallops with caviar, white truffle risotto, a 5 wagyu. All dishes I'd only ever drooled over while watching documentaries in my past life. I picked up my fork and took a bite of a perfectly cooked scallop. The exquisite, savory flavor exploded in my mouth. Bliss. This was absolute bliss. It was worth dying and coming back to life just for this. I was in the middle of enjoying my meal when the door to the room was gently pushed open. "Just leave the soup for later. I'm still working on this," I said, assuming it was the waiter. I'm so sorry to bother you." A voice as sweet and clear as a mountain spring chimed in. I looked up and froze. A girl was standing in the doorway. She wore a simple white sundress, her long hair falling over her shoulders. She had no makeup on, yet she was more beautiful than any celebrity I'd ever seen. Her eyes were like pools of clear water, pure and translucent, with an ethereal quality that seemed untouched by the world. She looked like she had just stepped out of painting. A goddess. That was the first word that popped into my head. I recognized her. Chloe Davenport, one of the main heroines from the original novel, and one of the most important women in Kevin Reed's future harem. She was the daughter of the Davenport family, a dynasty even more powerful than the Sterlings. A true top-tier princess. According to the plot, she was supposed to meet Kevin at some business gala, be captivated by how different he was from all the other rich guys, and begin a complicated romance. What's she doing here? "Can I help you?" I asked, putting down my fork and dabbing my lips with a napkin. Chloe pointed hesitantly at the truffle risotto on my table. I smell that. "Excuse me, is that Aurelia's signature white truffle risotto?" Her eyes were sparkling, like a little squirrel that had just spotted a mountain of acorns. It was adorable. I nodded. "It is. You want some?" She nodded furiously like a bobblehead before catching herself, a blush creeping into her cheeks. "Oh no, I was just curious. My father wanted to order it today, but Chef Antoine said the last of the truffles for the evening were already spoken for." "I see." I glanced at the generous portion in front of me. There was no way I could finish it all. "If you want some, pull up a chair. I'm just here by myself," I offered casually. I just thought it was a shame to waste it, and besides, the girl seemed nice. Chloe's eyes went wide, as if she couldn't believe my offer. "Really? I wouldn't want to impose." "It's no imposition. I ordered too much, and it's a waste to let it go cold." Just then, an arrogant voice boomed from outside the room. "What do you mean? There are no tables. Don't you know who I am? I don't care. I want this room, the celestial room, right now." A trust fund brat in a loud Versace shirt and Technicolor hair kicked the door open, flanked by 2 bodyguards. He saw me, then his eyes landed on Chloe, and they lit up with predatory glee. Well, what have we here? Hiding a little beauty all to yourself? Listen up, pal. This room and this pretty lady are mine now. You can get the hell out." My brow furrowed. In my last life, I took crap from bosses and clients. I endured it all. But in this life, all I wanted was to eat my meal in peace. Someone was trying to stop me from enjoying my food, and that I cannot tolerate. Ignoring him completely, I took out my phone and dialed Arthur. "Arthur, I'm at Aurelia. Some nameless idiot is interrupting my dinner." On the other end, Arthur understood immediately. "I will handle it once, sir." I hung up and went back to my risotto, savoring a spoonful of creamy rice. The rich kid saw me ignoring him and flew into a rage. "Are you deaf? I'm talking to you." He waved his bodyguards forward to grab me. Chloe let out a small gasp and instinctively moved behind me. I didn't even raise an eyebrow. Just as a bodyguard's hand was about to touch my shoulder, the rich kid's phone rang. He answered it irritably. "Who is it? Can't you see I'm busy?" A panicked, tearful roar came through the phone. "You little bastard. Who in God's name did you just piss off?" The kid froze. "Dad, what are you talking about?" "What am I talking about? Our credit lines have been frozen. Every single bank just called in our loans. All of our partners are pulling their contracts. It all happened in the last 5 minutes. The company is going to be ruined. Who did you mess with?" The color drained from the rich kid's face, leaving it as white as a sheet. The hand holding his phone started to tremble as he looked at me in utter disbelief. I slowly swallowed the risotto in my mouth and met his gaze. "Now, can you get out?" I said calmly. "Don't interrupt my meal." Chapter for the obnoxious trust fund kid scrambled out of the room as if the hounds of hell were on his heels. Peace returned to the private suite. Chloe stared at me, her clear eyes filled with a mixture of shock and curiosity. She had probably never seen someone destroy a company with a single phone call in a matter of minutes. And all because the guy had interrupted his dinner. "You She started, seemingly unsure what to ask. I pointed to the chair opposite me. Are you going to eat or not? It's getting cold. Chloe blinked, then obediently sat down. I served her a small portion of the risotto. She took a tentative bite, and her eyes immediately curved into happy crescents. This is amazing. Seeing her look so satisfied put me in an even better mood. You really love food, don't you? I asked. She nodded enthusiastically. Yes, my biggest dream is to eat my way across the world. What a coincidence, I smiled. Mine too. Over the course of the meal, we talked about everything. From the pillars of French cuisine to hole-in-the-wall taco joints, from Michelin-starred restaurants to Kansas City barbecue. I discovered that this ethereal goddess was surprisingly knowledgeable when it came to the world of food. And while I may have been poor in my past life, I watched enough Food Network to have a PhD in culinary theory. We hit it off immediately. The meal was far more enjoyable than I could have imagined. Afterward, Chloe's father, the chairman of the Davenport Group, Charles Davenport, came by personally to thank me. He was a mild-mannered, middle-aged man, but the sharp intelligence in his eyes betrayed his position as a titan of industry. He had clearly been briefed on what happened and was studying me with a probing gaze. My daughter could be a bit naive. Thank you for looking out for her, Leo, he said, testing the waters. I waved it off. I didn't do anything. I was just having dinner. The implication was clear. The idiot brought it on himself. Charles Davenport was a shrewd man. He understood my meaning instantly, and the look of appreciation in his eyes deepened. Chloe, you should learn more from Leo in the future, he told his daughter. Chloe's face flushed a pretty pink. She stuck a glance at me and gave a soft, hum. The days that followed were the beginning of my perfect, lazy life. Morning runs, mid-morning workouts, afternoons spent studying classic recipes or tinkering with the small batch gin I was distilling in my private cellar. Life was unbelievably pleasant. The only small interruption was Chloe. She seemed to have taken her father's advice to heart, finding an excuse to learn from me every couple of days. One day she'd text me about a new restaurant opening, asking if I wanted to check it out. The next, she'd send me a video of a dish she was trying to cook at home, asking for my advice on a specific step. Most of the time, I was too lazy to move, but sometimes she was so persistent I'd give in and go out to dinner with her. One morning, I was in my private gym, working on my bench press. Sweat dripped from my forehead, soaking the black tank top, causing it to cling to my torso and highlight the contours of my 8-pack. 100. I racked the barbell, sat up, and grabbed a towel. Leo, you're so strong. Chloe's bright voice came from the doorway. I turned to see her dressed in a pink workout set, her hair in a high ponytail, looking at me with undisguised admiration. What are you doing here? I was just passing by, she said, sticking her tongue out, a lie so flimsy even she didn't believe it. She walked over, her big eyes fixed on my stomach. Wow, those are real. She reached out a delicate finger and cautiously poked one of my abs. It was rock solid. Her face instantly turned crimson. She snatched her hand back like a startled rabbit. Seeing her adorable reaction made me want to laugh. Go ahead, you can touch them. There's no cover charge, I teased. Who wants to touch them? She retorted, but her eyes never left my midsection. I stood up, sweat trickling down the V-line into the waistband of my shorts. I grabbed a bottle of water, twisted it open, and chugged half of it. My Adam's apple bobbed, and a few drops of water escaped, tracing a path from my chin, over my collarbone, and down my chest. I could feel the gaze from beside me growing hotter. Want to get a workout in? I asked, turning to her with a smirk. I don't know how. I'll teach you. I took her hand and led her to a machine. This one works your core. I demonstrated the movement, then had her lie down on the bench. She was a bit nervous, her movements stiff. I leaned over, placing my hands on her waist to help her find the right position. Keep your back straight. Engage your abs. My palms were warm. Through the thin fabric of her shirt, I could feel the soft, slender curve of her waist. Her body went rigid, and she held her breath. I could smell the faint, sweet fragrance of her perfume. It was nice. My own heart, for some reason, beat a little faster. Just like that. Nice and slow. I murmured, my voice low next to her ear. Her earlobe, in plain sight, turned a shade of deep, beautiful red. Chapter 5. The atmosphere in the gym, thanks to that little moment, had become charged with a subtle, electric tension. To break the awkwardness, I suggested a tour of my kitchen and wine cellar. Chloe immediately forgot her earlier embarrassment, her eyes lighting up as she followed me. When she saw my professional-grade kitchen, which looked like it belonged in a Michelin-starred restaurant, she gasped. "Oh my God, Leo, this is incredible." She moved around like a kid in a candy store, touching the stainless steel counters and peering at the high-end appliances. "You use all this yourself?" "Yeah, sometimes I'm too lazy to go out, so I just make something here." I retrieved a bottle of my homemade plum wine from the temperature-controlled cellar. "Try this." I poured her a small glass. The amber liquid swirled in the crystal, releasing a sweet, fruity aroma. Chloe took a careful sip, and her eyes instantly curved into crescent moons. "This is delicious. It's sweet and tart, and you can really taste the plums." "Glad you like it." Watching her happy expression, I realized that the joy of sharing good food and drink was exponentially better than enjoying it alone. "I'm making pan-seared shrimp and a whole roasted branzino for lunch. Want to stay and try some?" The invitation slipped out before I could stop it. "Yes," she answered without a moment's hesitation, as if afraid I'd take the offer back. I smiled and pulled the fresh ingredients from the refrigerator. I was efficient in my prep work. My past life might have been short on cash for practice, but my theoretical knowledge was flawless. Chloe just stood to the side, her chin resting on her hand, watching me with a look of pure adoration. "Leo, you even look cool when you're cooking." My hand slipped. The knife I was using to mince ginger grazed my finger. A drop of blood immediately welled up. "Ouch!" Chloe cried out. My entire body went still. The warm, soft sensation enveloped my fingertip, carrying a faint, sweet scent. I could feel the delicate flick of her tongue against the cut. An electric jolt shot up my arm and through my entire body. I looked down to see her looking up at me, her long lashes dewy. She licked her lips, where a tiny smear of my blood remained. The image was devastatingly seductive. My throat went dry. My heart was completely out of control. She finally realized how intimate her actions were, and her face exploded in a blush. She dropped my hand abruptly. I'm sorry, my mom always said that helps disinfect it." She stammered, unable to look at me. I watched her flustered state and let out a low chuckle. "Well, it's all disinfected now. Feels much better." My laughter only made her more embarrassed, making her look for a place to hide. Just then, a golden retriever trotted over, wagging his tail and nudging my leg with his head. It was my dog, Buddy. He was followed by a gorgeous white ragdoll cat, who padded elegantly over to Chloe and began rubbing her furry face against Chloe's leg. "Pearl, what are you doing here?" Chloe said, delighted as she scooped up the cat. Buddy, the golden retriever, saw Pearl the ragdoll and immediately got excited, trying to lick her. But Pearl didn't shy away. Instead, she lifted a soft paw and gently tapped Buddy on the nose. The two of them, instant friends, started nuzzling each other affectionately. Chloe watched them and couldn't help but smile. They seemed to really like each other. "Yeah," I said, looking straight at her with a meaningful glint in my eye. "They're a lot more direct than their owners, aren't they?" Chapter 6. After the incident in the kitchen, the dynamic between Chloe and me began to subtly shift. She started coming over more often. Sometimes she'd bring a batch of burnt cookies, asking me with a hopeful look what she did wrong. Other times she'd show up with her cat, Pearl, claiming Pearl missed my dog, Buddy. I knew they were all excuses, but I never called her out on it, because I was discovering that I didn't mind. In fact, I kind of enjoyed having my quiet, retired life disturbed by her. My routine remained the same. Work out, cook, work on my distilling. Meanwhile, my ever-efficient assistant, Liam, was faithfully carrying out my one and only standing order. Don't let any boring people or problems bother me. One afternoon, I was lounging on the patio, sipping a glass of newly bottled peach blossom wine and enjoying the sun. Liam called. His voice was as calm as ever, but I could detect an undercurrent of excitement. "Sir, Sterling Industries and Kevin Reed's Nova Capital have initiated a joint hostile takeover of Horizon Robotics." Horizon Robotics? I frowned, the name not ringing a bell. "Yes, sir. A drone technology firm with immense potential. We completed a full acquisition last month. You are currently its sole, anonymous shareholder," Liam explained. I understood. The plot was kicking in. In the book, Kevin Reed made his first big splash by acquiring Horizon Robotics, getting his hands on their key technology, which catapulted him to stardom. It was how he finally proved himself to the old guard and made Isabella even more infatuated with him. Now, they had kicked a hornet's nest. "Oh," was all I said, taking another sip of my wine. It was delicious. Liam was silent on the other end, probably waiting for my next command. I grew impatient. "Was there something else?" Liam snapped to attention. "No, sir. I understand completely." "Good. Just make sure they don't bother me," I added, then hung up. To me, this was a trivial matter. I didn't even bother to think about how Liam would handle it. I just knew that my team of hyper-competitive workaholic executives would never let me down. They were constantly trying to one-up each other to become my most trusted subordinate. If they couldn't handle a small fry problem like this without my input, they weren't doing their jobs. I put my phone down and went back to enjoying the sun. A gentle breeze, the scent of flowers. This was the life. Meanwhile, in a skyscraper downtown, a war with no bullets had just begun. Isabella and Kevin sat in a conference room, radiating confidence. "Isabella, don't worry. We're fully prepared. We've already acquired most of Horizon's publicly traded shares. If we just apply a little more pressure, that mysterious majority shareholder will have to sell," Kevin said, full of swagger. Isabella nodded, a rare smile gracing her cool features. Once they acquired Horizon, her company would dominate the emerging tech sector, and she could finally prove to the old fossils on her family's board that choosing Kevin was the right decision. But what they received wasn't a surrender from Horizon Robotics. It was a bloodbath. An hour later, Sterling Industries' stock began to plummet without warning. Simultaneously, a flood of negative press hit Nova Capital. Tax evasion, illegal trading practices. Official investigation notices from the SEC arrived like an avalanche. Kevin's face went from confident to shocked to utterly terrified. Isabella was in a full-blown panic, making frantic calls, but every response was the same. There was nothing anyone could do. A massive, invisible financial power, emerging from the shadows, had them in a death grip. "How is this possible? Who is doing this?" Kevin roared, his eyes bloodshot. Isabella stared at the stock ticker, her face ashen. She ran through a list of all her possible rivals, but not a single one possessed the power to strike with such devastating, lightning-fast precision. She would never guess. The command that launched this cataclysmic attack was just a bored, offhand remark from the useless fiancée she had just discarded. "Don't let them bother me." Chapter 7 for Isabella Sterling and Kevin Reed. The next few days were hell. Isabella's iron will manage to stabilize her company's stock, but the damage was severe, forcing her to halt several key projects. Kevin's Nova Capital wasn't so lucky. It was shut down by federal investigators, and he was saddled with a mountain of personal debt. The once proud protagonist of a novel had become a pariah overnight. He couldn't understand it. He was supposed to be the chosen one, the hero. How could he have been defeated so thoroughly, so inexplicably? Isabella used every contact she had to find the puppet master pulling the strings, but every lead vanished as Shell Corporation registered overseas. The mystery became a thorn in her side. As for me, I knew nothing about it. Or rather, I didn't care. Liam had sent me a single text. "Sir, the world is quiet again." I'd replied, "Noted." Then I went back to my latest project, recreating a ridiculously complex eggplant dish from an ancient Chinese novel. Chloe, however, was having a great time, constantly scrolling through her phone. "Leo, look, Nova Capital went under. That Kevin Reed guy was so arrogant in that Forbes article, and now he's a total deadbeat. Serves him right." She shoved her phone in my face, her expression one of pure schadenfreude. I glanced at the screen, unfazed. To me, Kevin Reed was no different than a random stray cat. "Move your hand, you're blocking my light." "I'm trying to dice," I said. "All right," Chloe said, dutifully putting her phone away and resuming her role as my adoring audience. "Wow, Leo, you're so amazing. You have to peel the eggplant and then cut it into perfect little cubes. It looks so tedious. Great food requires patience." I was enjoying the peaceful afternoon. But trouble, it seemed, always found a way to show up uninvited. Arthur came in to inform me that my grandfather, The patriarch of the Carter clan had issued a decree. I was required to attend the Starlight Charity Gala tonight. It was the single most important high society event of the year. I wanted to go about as much as I wanted a root canal. Those places were crowded, loud, and the food was always terrible. But it was an order from the old man, so I had no choice. "Fine," he sighed. "Shall I arrange a date for you, sir?" Arthur asked. The first face that popped into my head was Chloe's, smiling brightly. "No need. I've got someone in mind." I sent Chloe a text. "Free tonight? Taking you somewhere with lots of good food." Her reply was instantaneous. "Yes. Where are we going?" I smiled. "A really boring gala, but I hear the desserts are decent." Okay. I'm in. Done. Having a foodie girlfriend makes life so simple. Chapter 8. The charity gala was a sea of designer gowns and bespoke tuxedos. The air, thick with expensive perfume and fake laughter, was suffocating. I tugged at the collar of my perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit. God, this was uncomfortable. "Leo, stop fidgeting. You're messing up your bow tie," Chloe whispered, reaching up to straighten it. She was wearing a pale blue gown studded with tiny, glittering crystals. Under the ballroom lights, it looked as if she'd draped herself in the Milky Way. The moment she walked in, she'd captured the attention of the entire room. The eyes of countless young, ambitious men were glued to her, filled with awe and desire. And yet, she stuck to my side like a shadow. "It's so cold in here," she murmured. I immediately shrugged off my suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. Better. My dress shirt was custom-made and fit snugly. Without the jacket, the defined lines of my chest and abs were faintly visible under the lights. Chloe's cheeks flushed. I leaned in close, my voice a low, teasing whisper in her ear. "Want a touch? You're the only one with a VIP pass." The warm breath on her earlobe made it turn a shade of red, so deep it looked like it might bleed. She looked down shyly, but her small hands clutched the jacket I'd given her. I grinned, satisfied. Teasing her was my new favorite hobby. Just then, I felt an icy gaze lock onto me from across the room. I looked up. Not far away, Isabella Sterling stood holding a glass of champagne, watching us with cold fury. She was wearing a stunning black evening gown that made her skin look like porcelain and amplified her frigid aura. The only thing missing was Kevin Reed. I guess the bankrupt pariah no longer had access to events like this. Our eyes met across the crowded room. Her expression was a complex mixture I couldn't quite decipher. There was contempt and disdain, but underneath it was that confusion. She probably couldn't figure out how I, the loser she'd so publicly dumped, had managed to land the heiress to the Davenport fortune. Especially since Chloe was looking at me with such obvious affection. It didn't fit her narrative of who I was. I couldn't be bothered to care. I broke eye contact and turned back to Chloe. "They have a dessert bar over there. Let's go check it out." Okay. The mention of food instantly erased Isabella from her mind. We walked over to the buffet, ignoring the stares, and began our raid. "This macaron is amazing. Ooh, the Black Forest cake is pretty good too. Leo, you have to try this tiramisu." I watched her nibbling away like a happy little chipmunk, a smudge of cream at the corner of her mouth. It was impossibly cute. I reached out and gently wiped it away with my thumb. "Slow down. No one's going to steal it from you." The gesture was natural, intimate. Chloe froze for a second, her face blushing, but she didn't pull away. From across the room, this entire scene played out in perfect clarity for Isabella. I saw her hand, the one holding the champagne flute, tighten until her knuckles were white. For the first time, a crack appeared on her perfect, icy facade. Halfway through the gala came the customary celebrity interview segment. The host brought several of the city's most successful young entrepreneurs on stage. One of them was Ethan Vance, heir to the Vance Group and Kevin Reed's former arch-rival, now riding high on his competitor's downfall. Ethan was on stage, speaking eloquently, the picture of success. The host asked with a smile, "Mr. Vance, with the recent collapse of Nova Capital, many are saying you're the biggest winner. What are your thoughts on that?" Ethan smirked and took the microphone. "I wouldn't say I'm the winner. I'd just say that some people shouldn't get ahead of themselves. Thinking you can climb to the top with a little bit of cleverness and the backing of a woman will only lead to a harder fall." His words were a thinly veiled jab, and everyone in the room knew he was talking about Kevin Reed and Isabella Sterling. In a shadowed corner, Isabella's expression grew even colder. After his little speech, Ethan's eyes scanned the crowd and suddenly landed on me. His entire demeanor changed in an instant. The smug confidence vanished, replaced by a look of profound respect, even reverence. He lifted the microphone again and spoke in a clear, loud voice. In fact, the main reason I can stand here today isn't because of my own efforts. It's because of a mentor I deeply respect. He taught me what true vision and power really mean. A murmur went through the crowd. Everyone knew Ethan Vance was arrogant. Who could possibly earn the title of his mentor? The host was intrigued. Oh, and who might this mysterious mentor be? Ethan's gaze was locked directly on me. This person is very low-key and doesn't like public attention. All I can say is he is the person I admire most in this world. With that, he turned in my direction and gave a deep, formal bow. In that moment, every single eye in the ballroom followed his gaze and landed squarely on me. I was in the middle of peeling a shrimp for Chloe. I froze mid-peel. What the hell is this kid doing? All I did was tell Liam to handle it. I didn't ask for all this drama. Chloe was stunned. She looked from Ethan on stage to me, her big eyes wide with confusion. Meanwhile, on the other side of the room, Isabella's pupils contracted. She wasn't stupid. Ethan Vance's attitude, the direction of his gaze, and the mysterious, unstoppable force that had recently shaken the market. An absurd, yet seemingly undeniable conclusion began to form in her mind. She stared at me, her eyes filled with utter disbelief. Just as the entire room was wrapped in a strange silence, with everyone trying to figure out my connection to Ethan, an unexpected voice broke the tension. It was Charles Davenport, Chloe's father. He walked over with a glass of champagne, laughing heartily as he clapped me on the shoulder. "Ha, Leo, my boy, you've really been hiding your talents. To think even a young Vance heir admires you so much." His voice wasn't loud, but it was perfectly pitched for everyone nearby to hear clearly. "My boy." Mr. Davenport called him my boy. What's his relationship with the Davenports? The whispers started immediately. That single statement from Charles Davenport carried 100 times more weight than Ethan's bow. He was publicly endorsing me. I looked at my future father-in-law, who was smiling like a sly fox, and felt a wave of helplessness. I just want a quiet life. Why is everyone trying to shove me into the spotlight? Before I could say a word, Chloe suddenly linked her arm with mine and smiled sweetly at her father. "Daddy, don't scare him." That one word, Daddy, and that one intimate gesture were the equivalent of a nuclear bomb. The ballroom went dead silent. Everyone was staring at me like I had just landed from Mars. This legendary, good-for-nothing, spoiled brat who was dumped by the Sterlings. Not only did he receive a public bow from the heir of the Vance Group, but he was also affectionately called my boy by Charles Davenport himself. And now, the sole heiress of the Davenport dynasty was clinging to his arm, staking her claim for the entire world to see. Had the world gone mad? I could feel Isabella's icy stare like a dagger in my back. I turned my head and met her gaze. In those eyes that had once held nothing but contempt for me, I now saw shock, confusion, and something that looked a lot like regret. How interesting. Chapter 10, after the gala, Chloe and I became the talk of the town. The rumor mill went into overdrive. The next day, a hashtag quietly started trending on Twitter. Hashtag Leo Carter didn't wake up. I clicked on it and found thousands of posts analyzing my every move at the party. Who is this Leo Carter guy? He looks like a nobody, but he has the Vances and the Davenports wrapped around his finger. Dude, are you new here? That's the heir of the Carter family. The same guy Isabella Sterling just dumped. Holy crap. She dumped him? Is Isabella Sterling blind? She tossed aside a hidden dragon to prop up some nobody pretty boy. Breaking. Several stocks under the Carter Corp umbrella surged at the opening bell this morning, apparently because of the hashtag Leo Carter didn't wake up trend. Are you serious? Is this the power of old money? He literally does nothing and makes millions? I'm not jealous. I'm not. I scrolled through the news on my phone, half annoyed and half amused. I didn't do anything. I took my girlfriend to a party for some dessert. And somehow I'm a hidden dragon, and now I'm moving the stock market. The internet's ability to create entire mythologies out of thin air was truly something to behold. Chloe saw the trending topic and was rolling on the sofa with laughter. "Leo, you're famous. You're the internet's new boyfriend." I gave her a look. "I'm only interested in being your boyfriend." My casual joke made her laughter die in her throat. Her cheeks turned pink. She looked down and toyed with her fingers. "Well, that depends on your performance," she mumbled. Seeing her so shy and cute, my heart warmed. I leaned in and gave her a soft peck on the lips. "How's this for performance?" "Passing grade." She froze completely, a blush spreading from her cheeks all the way down her neck like a lit fuse. Just then, my phone rang. It was Arthur. "Sir, Miss Sterling is here. She's outside the main gate and wishes to see you." "Isabella? What does she want?" I frowned. Honestly, she was the last person I wanted to see. Being around her was like standing next to a block of dry ice. She sucked all the warmth out of the air. "I'm not seeing her," I said flatly. "But sir," she says, "if you do not see her, she will wait at the gate," Arthur said, his voice hesitant. I scoffed. "She's going to pull that move on me? Let her wait." I hung up and switched my phone to silent. Chloe looked at me with concern. "Is that okay? It looks pretty cold outside." I pinched her cheek. "You're too kind. Some people don't deserve your sympathy." I pulled her to her feet. "Come on, let's not let boring people ruin our day. I just had a new home theater system installed. Let's watch a movie." The mansion had excellent soundproofing. Once the door was closed, the outside world and all its noise ceased to exist. I don't know how long Isabella waited out there. All I know is that Chloe and I spent the afternoon curled up on a plush sofa, eating popcorn and watching a marathon of classic romance films. During the final scene of the third movie, where the hero and heroine kiss in a snowstorm, Chloe suddenly turned her head to look at me. In the dim light of the screen, her eyes were shining. "Now, She didn't say anything else. She just slowly leaned in. Then, to my complete surprise, she tilted her head up and clumsily, yet with absolute certainty, pressed her lips to mine. Her lips were as soft and sweet as the rest of her, with a faint taste of buttery popcorn. My mind went blank. Every rational thought evaporated in an instant. I took control, my hand moving to the back of her neck, pulling her closer and deepening the kiss. Outside, without us realizing, a light snow had begun to fall. But inside, the two of us were hotter than the flames crackling in the fireplace. What I didn't know was this. Just outside the estate's main gate, inside a black Bentley, Isabella Sterling was staring through the swirling snowflakes. She had a clear view of the second-floor media room, where our embracing silhouettes were perfectly framed in the window. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles were white. A detailed investigation report lay on the passenger seat. It contained everything there was to know about Leo Carter, the man she had looked down on, the man she thought was a useless waste of space, was secretly the master of a commercial empire so vast it was terrifying. The man who had always been meek and quiet in her presence, who never dared to talk back, was the same man who showed such incredible tenderness and affection to Chloe Davenport. It wasn't that he was incapable. He just wasn't that way with her. Why? Why had she never seen it? If she hadn't gone to break the engagement that day. A single, cold drop hit the leather of the steering wheel. She raised a hand to her cheek. So, ice queens could cry after all, but it was too late. In this world, there are no do-overs. She had lost. She had lost completely. She hadn't just lost a war in the boardroom. She had lost the one man who was once hers for the taking and was now forever out of her reach.